we're afraid of emotion. So facing my fear of emotion is going to be a key part of my progression. I'm going to have to allow my emotion to flow. I'm going to have to allow myself to feel what's really going on inside of me before I can change. I'm going to have to. But most of us don't want to. So what we do when we don't want to is remarkable, because we manufacture a whole set of false beliefs to prevent ourselves from feeling emotion. And then we go even one step further than that. We also manufacture false emotions in order to prevent the real emotions. Right, that's pretty sneaky, isn't it? Right? So, and I see many of you doing that all the time. In fact, remember my conversation, I think it was with you, Natalie, I don't know if it was yesterday or a couple of days ago now, but remember I had the conversation where you were just manufacturing some emotion. You believed you knew what the emotion was, and I said, there's nothing to do with that. It's to do with sort of the feeling that you're superior to men instead of that. Well, this is an example of where, you know, we manufacture emotion because it's more pleasant, if that could be said, more pleasant to feel the manufactured emotion than it is to feel the real one. And this is what we do with God as well. Like, we blame God for a whole heap of things because we'd prefer to have the emotion with God than have to work through the emotion with our childhood events. We do the same thing. It's just a lot of it's manufactured. It's choice that we're making. We actually don't realise that a lot of the things that we think we're going to have to feel, we're not going to have to feel at all. And a lot of the things we've got no clue or no idea about whatsoever we're going to have to feel, right? And the key is to find out which one's real, but you're not going to get to find out which one's real and which one's not if you're already choosing which one to feel. So this is how we choose. Our choice is quite simple when it comes to emotion. This is how we choose. We have an emotion, and then we refer it to our mind so that it can decide which one is pleasant and which one is painful. Then the mind makes a choice. We make at the soul level, we're making this choice. Painful emotions are a no-no. They're not like, no, you can't feel those. You have to prevent those. So then we refer the painful emotion back to the soul, and the soul says, so our soul's driving our emotions, right? And our soul says, right, it's a painful emotion, I'm not going to feel it. It creates an emotion, I'm not going to feel it. It tells the mind, I don't want to feel it. And so what does the mind do? Construct a whole heap of belief systems to support the fact that the soul doesn't want to feel this emotion. That's what it does. Right? Now that's one method, but there's another method, and that is the mind sees it's a painful emotion and goes, I want to tell myself that I'm processing emotion. And many of you have fallen into this trap. You've heard me talk about emotions for years, right? So what you're doing is you're going, okay, AJ's saying to me that I've got to feel emotion in order to progress. But there's a whole heap of emotions I don't want to feel. But I need to feel that I'm progressing. So what it's better that I do is, if I see the real emotion, it's better to me than to create a fictitious emotion, right, a fiction, emotionally, and choose to feel that. Now, my soul will let me do that because that's not the real emotion, right? And it makes me feel like I'm progressing. Isn't that wonderful? I get to feel like I'm progressing, and I process the emotion. I might even cry for a few days or whatever and process the emotion. And I go and I come out at the end, I feel much better now. I've processed the emotion, and it's all crap. You haven't changed. Your life hasn't changed. You haven't changed in your attitude with people. You haven't changed in the way that you love. You haven't changed in all of these things. But you're not interested in measuring that because you've just convinced yourself that you've processed an emotion that was real. And you prefer to do that than process the real emotion, which is actually more painful, and you don't want to experience it. That's pretty slippery, eh? And many of you have done that. I've observed many of you ladies and men doing that. So that's a very slippery thing to do. You want things?
Could you maybe give an example of this?
Yeah, here's real easy examples. I think we've already given though plenty already in this program, but here's an example. Like, you've got a very painful emotion, for example, with your mother on earth. She's still alive and you still have a relationship with her, right? And it's a very painful emotion that exists in a soul. It gets triggered by some other woman. You know, you're in a relationship with another woman, it gets triggered, right? So what do? You have a big down and out fight with the other woman, right? So you have all this anger and rage come up and it's all directed at this other woman. But she didn't cause it. She didn't cause this emotion. Your mother did. And you don't want to have a fight with your mother. You don't want to go through the process of even feeling like you can't spend any time with your mother because you're still needy for all of her approval and acceptance so that you can feel like you've got some worth because your worth's tied into her, but your worth's not tied into this other woman. So you can dump the whole load of crap on her, on your partner, or, you know, just it might be a beginning relationship or whatever. You can dump a whole load of crap on her in order to avoid the painful emotion you have with your mother. And then not only that, we even go worse than that. We go home to mummy when the relationship breaks up and tell her how much of a bitch that other woman was, right? When actually it was the mother who created the problem. And we're unwilling to feel it. Like, isn't that really clever? It's clever, a way of avoiding our emotion, you see. Right? We still want to maintain that other relationship. It supplies our worth. It supplies a lot of our addictions. We still want that maintained. And so when the other woman comes along, of course, she receives all the crap from it until such a point in time that she decides that she no longer wants to receive all the crap from it and leaves us. And then when she does leave us, we go home to mummy and tell mummy that she was really bad. Wasn't it terrible what I attracted? No, you know, we don't even see it like that. We do this all the time, John, all the time. If you think about our relationships and our friendships and the way in which we act with people, just, you know, we do it all the time. Yeah, just pass the mic next to go.
Yeah, so AJ, what you're saying is that's the fiction that we've created, that relationship.
Well, the fiction we've created is that the lady in question, who I've got the relationship with in the example I've given, is actually the cause of the painful emotion, when she's not. I attracted her into my life to trigger the painful emotion, but the painful emotion is actually with my mother, and I don't want to feel that. That's the real emotion.
Yeah.
So I choose the painful one.
So if we're doing some soul work, we might try and address the new lady in the
Well,
emotions.
I see many of you in relationships doing this, where you're trying to address your partner for things which your partner either has been attracted to you to trigger, or that does not even do what you're accusing him or her of doing. And instead, it's your mother and father who have done it, and you're unwilling to feel that more painful emotion, right? So, because you view relationships with people, you know, sexual relationships with people, as passing and transient. That's one of the reasons why we do it. You want to view your family relationships as being forever, and you want to view your, you know, sexual relationships as passing and transient. And it doesn't matter if they've been married for 30 years. Many are still more connected to their mummies and daddies than they are to their partner, right? And that's because they've not dealt with these painful emotions associated with their mummy and daddies, right? Which they then put on the partner. Now, if the partner's really nice, is the way we see it, but actually it's not really loving from God's perspective, but from our perspective, world's view of love, if the partner's really nice, he'll meet all of my addictions that mummy or daddy created. And then we call him nice, or call her nice. From God's perspective, she's not being nice, or he's not being nice, because they're feeding your addictions. And that's never nice. It's always going to result in pain down the track, right? But we don't want to examine all of that, because we're so convinced that our view of love is right. We're so convinced that we've got no problems with our family of origin, and we're so convinced that the person we've attracted, which we've attracted due to soul conditions within ourselves, which we also deny, we're so convinced that it's their fault that we're willing to have fights and arguments with them rather than address the issue that's really going on. Yeah. Slippery, eh? See why we probably shouldn't be called humans and should be called eels? But that's probably bad for the eel. Can't call it a weasel, can't call us an eel. I don't know what we're going to be left with after that. Yeah. We do a lot of manipulative things, but what I'm getting at is that we have this choosing thing going on. We believe, many of you falsely believe, that your mind is capable of choosing the pleasant emotion and rejecting the unpleasant or painful emotion and surviving the choice. That's what you believe. And I'm saying, no, you're not surviving the choice here. What you're doing is you're storing up painful emotion after painful emotion. And unfortunately, that's like a feedback system to the soul. The more the painful emotion gets stored in the soul, the more it drives the next emotion and the next decision. And so you end up with this escalating issue where you do one unloving thing. It has a compounding effect because we don't choose to feel the pain, and we do another unloving thing. It has another compounding effect because we don't feel the pain of that. We choose to do another unloving thing. Now our unloving life is adding up, and the results of that life, if you're not feeling it already through pain and suffering on the planet, you are definitely going to feel it after you pass. Right? And we need to stop that process, and the only way to stop that process is to change our fear of overwhelming emotions that we believe are pain. Right? And I even think like nowadays that, wow, we even see them as pain, but the reality is, to me, they're not pain. To me, pain is when you avoid them. So even after when you start feeling a lot of these emotions, you'll actually get to the point where you don't actually see emotions as pain. You see not feeling them as pain. That's the creation of pain.